All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson McKay.
And today's guest is Don Saladino. He's a coach, keynote speaker, and fitness entrepreneur. He's coached actors, athletes, and musicians for over 20 years. He opened his first New York City gym, Drive 495, in 2005. After operating brick and mortar gyms for 15 years, Don expanded to a global online fitness business. He's developed a reputation for training some of the biggest names in Hollywood for the big screen. Reynolds, Blake Lively, Jake Gyllenhaal, John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, Annie Hathaway, Sebastian Stan, Hugh Jackman, and David Harbour are amongst roster clients. He's been tapped as a fitness expert in publications such as Muscle and Fitness, Men's Health, Women's Health, and Men's Fitness. He's also been featured in People, US Weekly, Origins, In Touch, Cosmo, and Shape, and has made appearances during live fitness demos on the Today Show, Page 6 TV, People, Now, E! News, and WebMD. He sits on the advisory board of Men's Health magazine. In March 2018 and October 2021, it was a great honour to shoot the cover of the iconic Muscle and Fitness magazine. Don lives in New York with his wife, Mel, and their two children, Amalia and Donnie Jr., and their pups, Rigatoni and Sambuca. And now, let's get to the interview.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's an honour to have somebody who's transformed so many movie stars that I've watched. But for people who maybe don't recognise you, how do you explain what you do? Because it's an awesome job.
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, thank you. I started as a coach. I started as a coach 25 years ago. Worked at a big box gym, ended up leaving there, became entrepreneurial, started my own training business, did my first, fundraise back in about 2003, opened my first of two clubs. Operated that for 15 years till my lease expired May of 2020, launched a digital business back in about 2011, 2010. And then I really put my foot on the gas, I think, from a digital standpoint, once I decided to not reopen my clubs during COVID. I definitely categorize myself as a coach, but I'm definitely a fitness entrepreneur. I'm partners in about a dozen brands. I run a pretty successful online business where I got a community of probably close to about 9,000 people, which is awesome. And, now I work out of my home gym, which is about 60, 70 feet from my back porch. It's called The Barn. It's a multi-floor, basically commercial grade facility, everything from cardio to powerlifting equipment to bodybuilding equipment downstairs. We got a 5-person outdoor sauna, 2 cold plunges. I mean, this literally is
a sweet setup.
A sweet setup. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun to be able to walk out here every day and just, do what I love doing.
Now, I read somewhere that you were bitten by the sort of fitness bug early. You weren't that interested in doing it as a career, but you just thought, I'm going to do this. I'm just interested in this. Where did that come from, the interest in muscle building, transforming?
Yeah, I think it came at a really young age. I mean, I had a terrible stuttering problem and hearing issue when I was young, and I think that helps you develop some insecurities and, started looking at, guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger and then a couple people that I became very good friends with, like Michael Hearn and Frank Seppi. And I think I became very infatuated at a young age with strength and sport and the human body. And it was the one thing that I realized that, wow, you could put a lot of time into this. And, get something pretty cool in return, right? It's what you put into it most of the time is what you get out of it. Granted, your health's in a good place. So I really got drawn to that. And I think when college ended, things ended up with baseball not going the way I wanted to go. I had a new dream and I had a new focus.
So how would you define true fitness? Not just like looking good, but that functionality, that ability to smash the home run, sprint up the stairs, pick somebody off the floor, pick up a kid, that sort of things.
Yeah, I think fitness is it's about, freedom with your body, right? It's pretty much being healthy enough to do what you want to do and live the life you want to live. And even, I'm 45 years old. I feel like, knock on wood, I feel like I'm 20 years old. And I think
you don't look 45.
Thank you. I think just having the ability, my eyesight's going now, so I think the glasses give it away. But, I think having the ability to do, for me, fitness is having the ability to do, whatever, running up the Empire State Building in a month or swimming across the Hudson, which I did this summer. And being fit, it's not only a physical thing, but it's an internal thing. It's a mental thing. And, that's something that even superhero training, though it comes off sounding quirky, it really is. Like when you're training superheroes for movie roles, it really is allowing them to adapt and adjust pretty quickly to different environments. Like being a superhero technically is, we watch them on TV. These people can do it all. So I think with the type of fitness I've always trained for, it's the ability to do it all. We're not training to be exceptional in an Olympic sport right now. Like that's not, I've trained people to be exceptional for sport, but in general, being creating that superhero physique, it's about being able to adapt to different environments.
And do you think that's a problem? Is that most guys go to the gym, it's the disco muscles. It's I only see these muscles in the front, so I'm going to work on my chest. I forget my legs. I don't know my rotational power. I don't even know what compound means compared to, my mate's doing arm bicep curl. I'll go do those.
Yeah, I'm not around that much anymore, right? It's like, I think the people that I'm with, we train. We don't work out. We train. There's a purpose. We do understand what it is we're working and why. We do understand that, okay, we need unilateral work. We need anti-rotation work. We need rotational work. We need all these things that I think allows us to be well-rounded. So when I hear about people training the beach muscles, I got to be honest with you, I just don't see it because I'll go to gyms. I don't really pay attention to what someone else is doing. I never really can judge a book by its cover. If I go and I see someone doing chest on Mondays, I'm not assuming that they're just doing chest 5 days a week. I don't know what they're doing days. I don't know, are they on a bodybuilding specific plan and they're working on mobility at a different time during the day? It's like, you never really know until you sit there and truly dissect someone's lifestyle. But yeah, I mean, listen, I feel like so many people would get so much more out of their body if they trained, the way that, you and I are talking about now, rather than just going in and kind of pounding on that anterior chain, right? There's so much more to it, but you also have to look at, people making this effort, right? And they're trying to move and they're trying to get off the couch. And, where years ago I used to dissect, that's not good and this isn't good, or 15 years ago, that sucks. Now it's like, well, what sucks is when they just sit on the couch and they don't do anything. If they are going into a Soul Cycle class 5 days a week, would that be or better yet, let me not pick on them. Let me just say a spinning class 5 days a week. Am I one to turn around now and say, well, sitting down while you do cardio isn't necessarily the best thing for you? They're moving. They found something they enjoy. What I try to do now is come in and allow them to be more resilient for that activity. I'm trying to come in and add value. Listen, you're really passionate about spinning 5 days a week. All right, there's things we need to do with our hips. There's things that we need to do with our glutes. There's things that we need to do with our thoracic extension, our thoracic rotation. We're locking ourselves into our bike. Let's mix this in so you can continue to enjoy doing the things that you love, like spinning, and we can make sure that your body doesn't break down. So,
no, that's a fantastic answer, because I always find that like the people who don't get on at the gym are those who sit there and they'll say, I don't really like the gym. And you're like, well, what are you training for? Don't really know. Well, what are you focusing on? What's your, have you got a challenge coming up? No, I'm just going to the gym because that's been what I was told. I need to lose some weight. They don't go and think, I could play tennis. I could do X, Y, CrossFit, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And do you think that's the problem, is that we don't have set goals. And how do you start reverse engineering? Say if somebody like Ryan Reynolds came to you and said, I need to do movie shape for Deadpool 3 in such and such a time. How would you start working back and adding in sort of, work out the intensity, the frequency, that sort of thing?
Well, I think we got to look at where they are in their life at that time, right? Ryan is someone I've worked with for, probably over 12 years at this point. And he's a very easy person to work with. I mean, he's very when it's time for him to flick that switch, he does. And he's been like a brother to me, and I can go on for an hour about him. He's amazing. But I think with someone like him, it's, or let's not use him for example. Let's just use someone else because I think he's pretty easy. How have they been training for the last weeks, months, years? Have they been, right? What are they preparing for nutritionally? Where are they at? How's their sleep? How's their digestion? How's their stress in their life? And I think once you start understanding these questions and you start checking boxes, then you can kind of start from the finish, right? Then you can say, all right, where do we need to be? Where do you need to be? And what is the roadmap we're going to give you to get from point A to point B? Because as you know, as well as anyone else, like there's a million ways, there's a million programs that you can create. Like I've been writing programs for, 30 years. So, and are there ones that I like more than others? Sure. But like, I don't know. It's not like there's never one that sticks out in my mind where I'm like, that's the best one I've ever written. Like it's different tools for different people. And if they're coming to me and they're like, I have to squat and I'm looking at their squat's terrible. And they don't have the ankle dorsiflexion, or they don't have the hip mobility, or they can't get into position. Maybe it's a trap bar deadlift. Maybe it's a rear foot elevated split squat. Maybe, and then it's talking to them saying, listen, we can go do that movement, but it's just right now, I think we need to put our foot on the gas with this exercise. And then let's do other things to try and clean up our squat in the future. I think it's sitting with them too and mapping out a game plan to where we understand what has to go into this in the next month, 2 months, 5 months, a year. I don't know how much time I have to work with them, but I think, reverse engineering is good, but I think it's also understanding, like as well as anyone, that map, it always changes. It's always like, it's never that same roadmap every time. Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, Deadpool 3, probably 3 completely different programs, right? Like Deadpool 1 came out, how many years ago was that? Like you evolve. We realize his body evolves. I think he's in a better place physically now because he understands his body better. And, then we start developing better qualities. We start developing things that are better nutritionally. And, his life's different now than it was in Deadpool 1, right? His life's different now than it was when he shot Green Lantern. Like he didn't have kids when he shot Green Lantern. He's got 3 beautiful children now. Like there's just things are going to change. Schedule's going to change. Stress level's going to change. So it always changes. And that's what I think, that's what I get most excited about because it becomes this new puzzle every time.
Because he was on my mind because he had just watched a video he had done he went for a colonoscopy, and he had it filmed along with his Wrexham co-owner, and it was just that kind of they were opening at this, and I would love to have him on the podcast, obviously when I get much bigger, but it was that kind of idea of to have there's so much more to fitness. It's about to be optimal wellness. It's not just can you lift in but not go up a flight of stairs. So, is that the things that people need to include? Nutrition, sleep. They need to realize it's a 3D model of health, not just what you can bench in the gym.
I think there's also this misconception on how you have to approach it. I believe, the movie Rocky, as much as I loved it, right? I think at times it sets a bad example because, yes, it's showing a guy who's working his ass off. But then we start affiliating in our head that that's what needs to happen all the time. And that to me is unrealistic. Not every set has to be taken to failure. No, absolutely not. Maybe that's not in the cards for you. So I have a gentleman right now that I've helped out since May, and he came into me, he was about 515 pounds. And he was pretty much on his deathbed that week. His doctors told him, they said, you're going to die pretty much. He couldn't walk. He couldn't walk on his own. He had to walk with crutches. he was drinking maybe a glass of water a day. I had him track his steps. He was walking maybe 400 steps a day. Couldn't physically walk. That was May. I have the date written down. It might have been early May. And I think the other day I had his Oura ring on, and we're tracking him at about 6,000 steps a day now.
That's some change.
Some change. And he's drinking about 200 ounces of water a day. And he went into the doctor, and the doctor actually looked at him and apologized and said, I didn't think you were going to be able to, most people can't go on this direction that you're going on. And he goes, it's fantastic what you're doing. Keep it up. Because now walks without crutches. Now we're starting to monitor some sleep, right? Is his diet perfect? His diet's pretty good. I mean, he's definitely on more of a fat adapted diet right now by his choice, because I think he's not starving and he's got a lot stored up and he's able to get away with that now. But, I sat with one of my friends and him yesterday, a nutritionist, and we talked about when we get him below 300 pounds, things are going to change. We're going to have to change up the formula a bit. Everything's working now. He's getting 1 hour sessions in here every day. He's coming in. I wrote him a program. He's doing it. He's sweating. He's doing the ski erg, walking 6,000 steps a day. He touched the ground yesterday. He was able to reach down to the ground and pancake his hand to the ground. Like, to have that type of progress since May, I think is extraordinary. But the coolest part about it was when he saw his doctor asked him to get on the scale. And he said, doctor, if you don't mind, he's like, I want to focus on NSVs. And he goes, what's NSVs? He goes, non-scale victories. It's something my coach tells me, non-scale victories. I don't want to get on that scale right now. He goes, I feel so good that if that number is not where I want it to be, I do not want it to throw me in a tailspin. So if you don't mind, I just want to keep focusing on the process like Don tells me. And the doctor smiled at him and said, no problem. And I was proud of him, because it's amazing how someone like that could be doing everything I want them to do right now. Is it the best diet in the world for him right now? No. Right? Is it the best training program I've ever written? No. Guess what? We have him doing TRX squats. If someone's squatting that's 450 pounds with a TRX, and walking up and down stairs, that's tough for his legs. He couldn't walk early on. So we're slowly progressing him. But I think the fact that he was not so focused on a number, and a lot of us, we could be doing great with our fitness, we could be doing great with our health and wellness, seeing great progress, and we just jump on a scale and suddenly it's like, I didn't lose any weight. I've been killing myself for 2 weeks. You failed. You're done. That's not what health and wellness is about. Health and wellness is about finding some enjoyment out of this. Health and wellness is about feeling good and going in and allowing that process to make you feel good every day. And when you start connecting with that, when this starts becoming part of your life style and your survival, and you are focused on that, then I think extraordinary things can happen. If your success is going to be quantified by a number, you're probably going to fail miserably. I had a woman last year who gained 9 pounds of muscle and lost 8 pounds of fat according to her DEXA scan. So we're using her DEXA as a gauge. Not saying DEXA is 100% accurate, but I'm saying if we're using this to measure trends and a gauge, I think it's good for that. Now, if she didn't do that DEXA, over the year, she could have turned around and said, what the hell? I just gave you a whole year and I gained 1 pound. What am I doing wrong? Mm-hmm. But when she put up her before and after, her body composition looked completely different. Her energy was incredible. She gained a pound of muscle. I'm sorry, she gained 9 pounds of muscle. 9 pounds! To do that
That's
naturally,
awesome.
And lost 8 pounds of fat. So I think that's extraordinary. But most of us out there, we're looking at the wrong things. And I think that's why the majority of our planet right now gets discouraged with this stuff, because they're taking the wrong approach.
No, that's a cracking answer, because how many times do you hear that? It's like, oh, I weigh myself and I've put on weight, and you're like, well, are you sure it's not muscle? And you've lost. Yep. And you get these people who come up that, that's a myth I wish would just bugger off, like that, the scale dictates your value. It's such, how much has it messed up young girls and stuff worrying about their weights as they fluctuate and stuff, or young guys getting growth spurts. And it's terrifying for what it's done to the youth.
It is. I mean, there's other things we should be looking at. I mean, technically right now I'm 35 pounds overweight. If you were looking at my body mass index for a guy who's 6'1", I should be about, 180, 185 pounds. I'm 215 pounds. When I go to my doctor's office, he's not telling me I weigh too much. He's not like, Don, you need to lose weight. We're checking my bloods, and I have a functional medicine doctor, Dr. Gabrielle Line, where her and I go a little bit more in depth and we check out specific things. And for me, it's about, can I put, great stuff in my body most of the time, meaning nutrition, my fruits, my vegetables, my protein, my carbohydrates. I believe in metabolic flexibility, healthy fats, slow burning carbohydrates, and understanding that, we can do things in moderation. Like if I want to go out and I want to eat some pizza or have some ice cream, I'm going to go do it. I'm not going to, now if I'm prepping for a cover of Muscle and Fitness or Men's Health, like different story. Like, no, then there's no cheats for 4 or 5 weeks. And no, I gotta, it's business. But I agree with you. I know for a fact that when people get involved with this, their goal, I think most of the time, is the wrong goal. I'm going to try, it's New Year's resolution. I'm going to try and eat perfectly. Like, okay, you're going to screw that up. I'm going to give up all the things that I love. All right, well, you're going to screw that up, right? Like you're already setting yourself up. Like you're going into this specific time and you think that's the time of new beginnings, and you're doing something that you're probably not going to be successful with, right? Because every year it's the same people coming back to the same thing, setting the same goal that's not attainable. Like, no, like, you know what? Why don't you try and allow yourself a little bit of, if you're enjoying and you want to go, if you love ice cream, like don't just remove it from your diet every, for the next 6 months, or tell yourself the next year. Because the second you go and cave in and do that, then you think you failed. And make it part of your program. Make it part of your lifestyle and what you do. Like go have it and enjoy it and wake up with no guilt. Now, if I go have it 5 nights in a row, I'm not going to be feeling too good about myself, right? Like it's something that I have to put in there once in a while. Yeah. But I just think we're setting the wrong bar.
Because that's something I was going to the gym and I was trying to keep up with fitter, younger guys, and it's like, I'm not enjoying this. Then I found powerlifting and I was deadlifting, squat. I was like, oh, this is it. This is perfect. Then I found jiu-jitsu and it's like, fitness can be fun. You don't need to do something and hate it. You can make it part of your lifestyle. And like you're saying, have moderation of the cheat meals. Go and have, go maybe have a pint one night, but not every night and stuff like that. How do you establish that with your clients? How do you say to make it fitness, not just whatever you do in the gym, but make them understand it's a whole thing, and how could you, should we be going in like the movie star route? Go in, smash a quick workout, go home, try to keep like cross training with some sports, keep your fitness, your meal prep. Is that a good approach for the average punter?
I think for the average person, things should be done in moderation. I think, again, every individual is different. I think if, a celebrity's coming to me and they're like, we have 4 weeks and we have to get ready for this role and I got to have my shirt off. All right, it's not a lot of time. We can do a lot in 4 weeks, but I would urge them not to have anything. I would urge them, no, like, let's give this a fair shake. Let's go into that shoot date and let's allow yourself to, feel some comfort in your effort. Let's allow yourself to go in there with some confidence by saying, wow, I did everything that I should have done for this role, which I feel proud about now. Right. And, but other people, no, we don't have to. And I think it really comes down to what are the goals? Like this guy I'm working with now who started at over 500 pounds. No, it really isn't to the point now where he can go have a lot of cheats. He really can't. He really, there's something in his brain that the second he has that, it triggers emotions and it triggers this downward spiral. So no, like maybe one day, sure. And since May, has he messed up? I want to say probably once. Would I even consider that a mess up? No, because we talked about it. Now, if I didn't get him back on the track and I wasn't there to guide him, it could have went down that downward spiral. So I think, again, it comes down to the individual. It comes down to the goal. But when it's life or death like that, I mean, I worked with a woman who, her story is pretty public. I mean, she started with me at almost 900 pounds. and then she got down to she lost about 500 and put a little bit back on, and she put a little bit back on because she slipped, right? She slipped off, and it's like, and I looked at her and I said, you can't, like, this is part of this is your life. This isn't about like, oh, I'm at 8% body fat, and if I want to go have pizza twice a week, like, okay, like you could do that, right? But for her, it's part of her life, and the second she starts introducing those things in, she falls down this downward spiral. So again, this is very individualistic.
So is that the kind of idea behind like the Sutat mantras? You can't go back and change your beginning, but you can change where you're going to. So like if you do, so like what would you advise people who are building in the consistency, going to the gym, working out, but maybe they make a mistake or they miss a session? How do we just get over that, reset, recalibrate, and start again?
Yeah, I think understanding it's not a mistake. It's part of the plan, right? It's part of the program. I think it's getting them. A good coach is going to allow them to understand not if they screw up, when. And if we could start improving that from the year prior, we're going in a good direction. Like if someone ate bad food 365 days last year, right? Like they ate fast food 365 straight days. And this year they did it every other day, and you cut that number in half. Well, some would say, well, you're still eating too much fast food. I'm looking at that as an improvement. Now I'm trying to get them, well, can we cut that in half again? Can we cut that in half again? Like you were at 365 days. Now you're at, whatever the math is on that, 180, 3 days or 182.2 days, whatever it is. Can we cut that down to 90? I can't do the math on that.
Don't ask me, I'm useless at that.
Yeah. Can we cut it down to 90 days now from the 180, right? And that's what it's about. It's not always about coming in and trying to like crush it or do what Don does. Like this, this is something I've been practicing for 30 years. Like this is something that's been in my life for 30 years. That's why I've got it more together than most when it comes to this sort of thing. But I think for the average Joe out there, it's just, let's figure out a way. Let's take our time. If we could turn around and make 12 big changes in the next year, maybe change number 1 is increasing your sleep. You focus on that for a month. Change number 2 might be hydration. Start nailing your hydration. Like that to me, those first 2 months, those are life-altering changes right there. You start cleaning up sleep and hydration, and you do that in 2 months. Like most people are saying, well, I'm not really improving. I haven't lost weight. I'm like, you just cleaned up 2 of the most important elements in your health and wellness, your sleep quality and your hydration. Like that's astronomical, right? So let's focus on that and watch what starts happening. And in just focusing on the process of making good, positive change, then you know what? Then you start showing up to parties and people are like, what are you doing? Right? Like body looks different. You look happy. Like your skin looks good. Like, oh my God, like, what have you been doing? And then suddenly that becomes like, oh, wow, like that's funny. Like the scale number hasn't moved much, but people are all commenting because your body composition is changing. But a lot of people, they don't want to, they're looking for things too quickly.
Yeah.
And, again, reverting, I love using this guy as an example because since May, there have been so many changes. He got on the scale in 12 days after we started, and he lost, I think it was 37 pounds. And I was like, oh man, here we go. Because I knew what was going to happen. And he is like, I comes in, his eyes, oh my God, I lost 37 pounds. I'm like, pump the brakes. A lot of that weight you lost is probably water. I'm happy. I don't mean to pee in your Cheerios here, but there's a lot that's, so then he goes in and weighs himself a week later and he put like, I think 12 pounds back on. And then he fell into a depression for a couple of days. And I sat him down and we had like a life-changing talk. And then at that point, I convinced him, focus on how you're feeling. You're feeling great. You're moving. You're improving. Let's just focus on improving. Not too many people who weigh 500 pounds that can go hike, 5-6 miles. We get yourself to learn to hike and walk. You're probably not going to be 500 pounds one day, right? Like if we can work. So there's also this understanding that if we clean things up with nutritionally and sleep and everything, and then we get our fitness better by just doing something simple like steps, we start closing in on that gap a bit. And that's what he's doing. And that's what he did. And he got through that worst phase of like, in the beginning, it's just that rewiring. because he's always going to want to go back. He's going to want to get on that scale every day. And if he would have done that, and if he focused on that as a goal, it would have been catastrophic. He would have been right back in the hospital.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
And do you think that's what people call resilience and mental toughness, is just that thing of using that success to build up to the next one? And that's my new starting point. So I'm going to use that accumulated knowledge and experience to then go to the next one. And you just use the momentum, the enjoyment, the pleasure you get from it to roll you into the next workout.
I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good way to focus on it, right? I think when you start relating your success to how I felt after a session, and I think when you start adding that in and day out, I think great things can start happening. When you start looking at training as, wow, this makes me feel good. Eating makes me feel good. Or like, oh, training's hard. Or, oh, eating, I don't like that food. It's like when you start consuming food that's delicious and that's making you feel better, and you start training and you start leaving a session going, I'm in a much better place than I was an hour ago. When you start looking at that as your focus, things start happening a lot easier.
And do you think, is there sort of set golden rules that you would have, like principles? Because when I was deadlifting and powerlifting, they said it was progressive overload. Then people would say, they would they would get too into it. So it'd be German strength testing, and then it'd be fartlek, instead of walking. And how deep into this do we need to go? Do we need to get a coach to kind of guide us through this? Because, they always say, the last person to see the change is yourself. Other people notice it before you do.
Yeah. I again, this is coming down to it being individualistic and what's that trigger. And, think about it. I mean, you can go through life never stepping foot in the gym, right? Like if someone was to wake up every day or 3 days a week and go, move around their lawn or, plant or farm or, do activities, break a sweat, and they're sitting there eating healthy and they're keeping stress levels low. They're probably going to live, they're probably going to outlive most, right? Like that's a pretty good recipe right there. But, I also know that, we can't show up there every day hating what we're doing. And if someone's coming to me and they're like, God, I just hate the gym. Absolutely hate it. Like, well, what do you hate about it? I hate, machines. I hate being around people. I was like, well, is that really it? Like, yeah. Like, well, what if we tried something at home? What if we tried something that didn't involve any weights, right? Or if it's just body weight, like, is that the best thing for them? Like, is that statistically the best thing for fat burning? Or is it like, I get such a kick out of this whole high intensity training, push over the last high intensity training, is the best for fat burning. And I'm like, nonsense. It's complete nonsense. Like so what are you saying now? Like I have to give everyone high intensity training? Like not everyone's earned the right to train with that level of intensity, right? And maybe what if you come in and absolutely hate it? Are you going to discourage someone where, well, I absolutely hate high intensity training. And every time I do it, I feel sick. I get headaches. I throw up and I hate it. So, it's not the best thing for me. So I'm just not going to do it. Are you really going to tell them that? Like, is that coaching? Like, no, like bodybuilders. I know so many bodybuilders that they're not doing high intensity interval training. They're walking slow on a treadmill for a reason, right? Like, are you Do you know what's the optimal level of your fat burning level? Like, have you gone in for a VO2 test? Have you found out those numbers? Do you even believe in that? Right? Like, there's so many ways that we could start. I think tweaking things, and I believe there's so many ways that we can add in other tools to really keep things exciting for someone like me who likes that sort of thing. But for the average Joe out there, I mean, in my opinion, if you can get to do some type of resistance training 3 days a week, and then you can go get your steps in another 2 days a week, like, do I think that's enough for most? Yes, 100%. I do believe that's enough for most.
So it's always good to sort of measure, what gets measured gets managed. So what tests do you get them to do before you take them on? How do you measure it? Is there tools that you would sort of swear by as you're going along?
In the past, I would use like an FMS when I was working, because remember, I'm not really working with individuals anymore. Everything I'm working now is more global. Like, I've got my online community where I coach 5 days a week, and I'm answering their questions 5 days a week. I'm calling their name out on video 5 days a week. So yeah, I don't have the freedom to be able to FMS them. But when I owned a club, I had a team of physical therapists, and the FMS was a tool we used at the time. Like, I'm friends with Gray, and I know Lee Burton and Greg Rose, and Greg's one of my mentors and very good friends. And we would use the FMS tool, and if we saw any red flags as a coach, we would then pass them over to our physical therapist. And the physical therapist would then come in and do like an SFMA, or would do another type of screening process to really start doing a bit more of a deep dive on what's going on. And that's what we use then. Now, are there tools I've used in the past, like VO2 peak tests or VO2 max tests, or, DEXAs, or, specific, hydrostatic weighing. Would we use stuff? Yeah, we would use stuff like that. But I don't know. You also got to understand that when you're doing tests on people like that, like, they're not always going to get better. Like, you're not always going to, like, I haven't, like, breaking news, over the last 20 years, I have not improved my body fat every year. Like, it doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't work that way. Like, I don't like, I'm not getting into better shape every year. Some years I have good years, other years maybe it's not as good. It's just how things are. And I think if you're going to go back to numbers and look at those quantifiable numbers, and that's going to put you into a depression, then you shouldn't be measuring it, right? Like, I had someone recently who called me up, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm like ready to hang myself." And I'm like, "Why?" They're like, I just went in for an in-body, and it said I put on a pound of body fat. And I'm like, first off, it may not be accurate, number one. And secondly, like, I thought you said over the last 3 months you've been feeling great. I have been. My workouts have been amazing. I'm like, and how's your nutrition been? Amazing. Like, so excuse my language, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's like, we're like, why are you suddenly sitting here getting depressed because a number moved an inkling, may not even be accurate? And why is that, like, dictating your outcome? Like, you said your clothes were fitting you better, you're looking better, people are commenting. Suddenly that number changes and you're off. Or, is that really how you want to live your life? Right. So we had to kind of rewire them a bit, but I think data is great. I really do. But I also think data might be needed for certain people and might not be needed for other people, for certain people. I think it can be, it could be a recipe for disaster depending on the individual. A lot of coaches get so excited over data. I'm like, listen, just because it works for you and you enjoy it and it's something that drives you, don't assume that every individual is going to be like you. Because sometimes it's just, let's take 1 month to make one change. We did it. Let's take the next month to make, I'm not really progressing. Well, 12 months just went by and you had 12 changes to your lifestyle, 12 life-altering things that you completely adjusted. And you're trying to tell me that you're not progressing. That's progress. So, you think it's educating people.
Because it's a big thing. Like, like you're saying about data abusers, when I started powerlifting, I was squat, deadlift, go through the roof, bench was the same. And then I got a blood pressure test and they said, whoa, that's sky high. You need to be doing cardio. No one had ever told me that. So I had no idea. But then I had friends who it's every single little thing. They're altering it. They're looking at their whoop and all these kind of. And I'm like, what the just go and do jiu-jitsu for an hour. Go and do something. Like I grew up in the Highlands where you're like we had sheep, so you had a hay bale on the shoulder, your kind of bag of feed. You're doing all these kind of things. You didn't even know about functional training and stuff. Is that the kind of like functional training, resistance training? Are they the best buck for every newbie, depending on where they're starting from? Say if they come in with a general health that they're not needing to lose weight, or they've got like a chronic pain or something.
Yeah, see the functional training thing, I get kind of a kick out of, because I mean everything's in my book pretty functional, right? It's
Right.
it really is. Like I'll never forget Dr. Andrea Ospina was cracking me up one day with FRC that we hosted at our club I think 5 or 6 times, and I remember him saying it was a great comparison. He's like, someone who says a bicep curl isn't functional, like tell that to a mom who's pulling her baby out of a crib. And it really is like everyone wants to start picking on, functional training, not functional training. I believe that, there's benefits to machines, kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells. I think there's also other things that you need to do in conjunction with that. I know with myself, there's time I'll put in the pool. I love swimming, and I love, going in and doing lap work, and I love what that's doing more for my breathing and for my breath holds. And, I put mobility in a lot. I like mobility work. It makes me feel better. Foam rolling, suddenly, I had a good rap for years and I'm like, oh, it doesn't work. It makes me feel better. I feel better from foam rolling. I'm going to continue to do that. Like you can take your science or take what you think and whatever. So the whole functional training thing, I think it's really, I had a very, very big name celebrity come to me years ago that was, more seasoned, they're a little bit older. And they said, listen, I know, you come highly recommended, and I appreciate the whole assessment screening that you put me through, but these are my goals and this is the way I like to train. So I'm either going to pay you to show me the best possible way to go about doing that, or I'm going to bring my business elsewhere. I'm just being completely open with you. And I said, great. I said, I appreciate that. I said, now, if you don't mind, can we have a quick conversation? I said, no problem. I said, this is what I want you to do. If you can come in 5 minutes early foam roll and allow me to take you through 10 minutes of movement every day, the next 50 minutes, we will do what you want to do. And he goes, all right, that's fair enough. What do you want to do? You want to do bodybuilding? You want to do a lot of isolation work? Maybe at the time he was back squatting. I'm like, listen, I got him trap bar deadlifting. We had him doing more front squatting, better movement pattern for him. And we were able to create that stimulus that he wanted. And he felt great. And he improved in his 70s. He improved. So if you were to walk in, was it the best thing we could have done for his mobility? No, it wasn't. But you also got to understand who you're working with. And sometimes it's a compromise. And sometimes you got to give them a little bit of what they want. And as they trust you and as they develop a relationship and a rapport, you start going in a direction that you want to go in. Years ago, I had a guy come to me and he was like, I met this guy probably 15 years ago. I'll never forget. He came in and he's like, oh, these TRX workouts look awesome. Okay. Right. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what do you, he's like, well, I'll train with you, but I'll only train if we do TRX work. This guy ended up becoming one of my closest friends. And I said, all right. So we started working with the suspension trainer. That's all it is. It's a suspension trainer, the TRX. And we started packaging workouts that really involved the suspension trainer. And in time, I started mixing other things in. And he developed a trust with me. And I remember in about a month, he turned to me, he goes, I love it, but you started showing me some cool stuff. What else do you have for me? And I smiled at him. I said, all right, cool. And then we got him into the kettlebell and we taught him the hard style swing, right? And then we started, getting into pulling from the floor and doing all these other things that he wasn't too inclined to doing early on. And, we developed that rapport, but I had to meet him at a certain place to allow this person to trust me. Right. And I think coaches sometimes like, oh, it's garbage. No, this is how I want it done. I'm like, well, that's how you want. If you're a good coach and this person's telling you on day one that I hate squatting. The back of my head, I'm thinking, you squat every day, you sit on the toilet every day. It's a movement pattern that you should have, but you're telling me you hate squatting. So, all right, let's get you. I hurt my knees squatting. Okay, so we stay away from squatting, and we get them doing movement, and then we get them doing split squatting and other things that they're not affiliating that bad experience with. And then in time, we might throw a kettlebell in their hand and say, give me a goblet squat. And we talk about the benefits of the core, what's it doing to the hips, and how do you feel? Oh, I feel really good from this. Oh, my knees feel great. Let's keep going. And then you get them back into a good place mentally. So yes, training's about compromise.
And do you think that's what's made you such a successful coach, is that ability to kind of meet somebody in the middle and kind of lead them on the journey so they discover their love for and the exploration of fitness?
I think, listen, every coach I come around thinks they're better than the next coach. Like I am, I'm very confident in my coaching ability. I'm very confident in my knowledge and what I do. But the area I know I'm better than most in was the second I would see that client coming in, within seconds, I would know how to adapt to that person. I could look at the way they're walking. I could look at how they're holding their shoulders. And I was like, oh boy, here we go again. This person's not having a good day. And I would know how to go into that session and with someone that's pretty well known. And I knew how to get them back to that level playing field, that good place mentally within 5 to 10 minutes. I could get them back to where they were able to put aside whatever they were going through that day. And yeah, I think that's what I was exceptional at, having that ability to do that. And then, showing a level of success. Day one, we're not going to change someone's body composition, but if they couldn't touch their kneecaps and within the next 15 minutes, I get them touching their toes and their body's feeling better and we're allowing them to feel this level of success, then I think you're going to have someone for a long period of time.
Because that's what I was impressed with your site. There was like focus on nutrition, there was meal plans there was suggestions, there was like a body weight workout for people, there was short workouts for people who are pressed for time. And that is that another issue, that people they tell themselves a story of why they can't work out, and you showing how you can transform somebody in 6 weeks kind of eliminates that, and you say how some of the busiest people on earth can do this?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that if you're someone that comes into me and you're like, oh my God, for some reason, every time I get to the 20-minute mark during my workouts, I just lose interest and I hate it, then I'm going to create a 17-minute workout for them. Like I'm always going to seriously, no, it's who is someone if you took someone who was completely sedentary last year that ate crappy and you got them to do 10 minutes of working out, 10 minutes every day, 5 days a week, something that shows that level of improvement, you improve hydration and you start getting them to improve their nutrition to maybe 70, 80%, like they're going to see progress. They are. Like we're always in this mindset of like, oh, what's the best? And, it's got to be 90 minutes or an hour. And it's just nonsense. Like if someone's coming in and they don't like it, get them to leave that session saying, oh, that was actually pretty enjoyable. Oh my God, he actually didn't kick the living crap out of me. Oh my God, that was really fast. Like, I can't believe it. You sure don't want to keep going? Nope. How about if we come back tomorrow? Or how about if we come back in 2 days? And how about if we try and repeat something with a little bit of variability? And we just shut you down a little bit early every single time. So right at the point of like, I'm exhausted, we're going to shut you down before that. So you can leave here feeling like I can keep going. And you suddenly have this level of excitement for wanting to get in there, right? So the majority of the population, man, they don't think the way we think. They're not waking up like, oh, my meals are prepped, and like I can't wait to get to the gym. Like most people, they just want it. They just want to have that drive, but they're also they're not developing that consistency because they're just diving into something that they're not going to be successful with, and they're not building any consistency with these habits.
If you could bottle that feeling of wanting to go do stuff, like once you start meal planning and prepping and stuff, and you come in and you got food ready and you got your snacks, it's life changing. And then it just is a knock-on effect in life. I mean, you're super busy. You're building a juggernaut of a fitness empire. You're on social media. You're coaching some of the most well-known people in the world. You're a family man. You've got so much on. How do you learn to juggle that be an entrepreneur, keep building this empire, be a family man, work out for yourself, do all the other stuff that you've got going on?
Because I think it's because I love it. I think I love, not I think, I know I love it. I mean, I love my family. So spending time with them is easy. It's something I look forward to. I work a lot when the kids are at school, right? And when they get home at night, like tonight, I'll be done by 7. And when I get home, I'll try and hang with them a little bit. We'll have dinner. We'll spend some time together. I think it's also waking up every week knowing that like I can improve. I woke up Monday and I was like, okay, last Monday after Labor Day. I remember waking up just being like, oh man, we got to revamp a few things. I'm not feeling good about this. Certain things with social media I didn't like. There's certain things with how we were delivering our message I wanted to change. And I think it's having that, that hunger to just improve, right? Like I like finding out ways to get better, whether it's with business or whether it's with my kids or whether it's with my own training. How can I, improve it just 1% or something small, and, having that challenge to come in and trying to improve things day in and day out is for me, it's fun. It really is. Every once in a while, like anyone else, you can get overwhelmed or, life attacks you, or, you lose a loved one, or, my mom today fell, next thing you know, we're at the hospital with her, she dislocated her hip, and shit like that happens. But you've got to, I think you got to understand that's part of the program when stuff like that happens. That's part of life and what's happening. And you got to look at that stuff as like, all right, that goes in the category of like shit that went wrong. It's like, okay, don't give up when that happens. We learn to shift gears, or maybe take off a day, or maybe go in and do something a little quicker, because that's what allows you to feel better, right? How do you handle stress? How do you handle when things go wrong? You to go hit a bottle and go eat fast food, right? If that's what makes you feel better, like, okay, like don't do it too much. But for me, it's the other way around. Like I normally like to buckle down or hop on the stair climber when that happens, or go for a run, or, do some movement, allow my head to clear up. And I think when you start affiliating that with when things go wrong, that's when you take it up a notch even more. Suddenly you're not washing your hands like, oh no, I need this even more right now because this is part of my survival.
It's like what you were talking about, mindset changing and like breaking bad habits and stuff. And do you think this is where we're going wrong? Is like, it's not a cheat meal. It's going out for a steak and chips, maybe on a Friday night with a friend who's coming to town. It's not cross training. It's going to paddleboarding with the kids at the weekend, or, it's a lifestyle. It should be fun. It should be keeping you fit. I'm trying to remember who said it. It's like, prepare today to do the things you love tomorrow. That, we just need to be fit for life. We just need to figure out a goal. Are we just taking it too much into the data and into the breaking individual components rather than just life?
I think we're taking it too much into those areas if it's forcing us to be less successful. The data, the science, that's there to help us improve. But who am I to tell someone that likes going to a cardio class 3 times a week that that's not the best thing for you? Okay, maybe it's not, right? But it's you're moving, you're happy, you're getting into better shape, and your body feels better. So who am I to tell you you're doing the wrong thing? Now, when you're in those environments and suddenly like every day, it's like, oh, my shoulder today, my neck, my back, my knee. Okay. Like, all right, something's wrong here. Like now we have to assess it. But if someone's getting, it's funny. I remember like for years, the powerlifters were hating on the bodybuilders, and the bodybuilders were hating on the powerlifters, and like, well, they do all isolation. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, you've had 30 surgeries already. Like it's like not you in general, but like you powerlift. Like I love powerlifting. Like I'm more like I'm into like power building. Like I love the powerlifting element of it, and I like the bodybuilding element of it. Like that's just something that I enjoy doing. I like bench squatting and deadlifting. I love that stuff. But I also like going and focusing on, movement and sprinting and aesthetic training. There's all these hats I like to wear. So part of this is me loving and enjoying what I do. So yes, love and enjoy what you do. But I think if it's not working, meaning like, are you getting hurt? Does your body feel worse? Are you not enjoying it? Are you not improving? If any of those, if you're checking those boxes, then yeah, I think I would look into doing something different.
And how did becoming a father, getting married, even COVID, what have you sort of learned about yourself, coaching, just fitness in general? Were there life lessons that you've kind of picked up that, that you want to maybe portray for your kids so that they grow up to be the fittest version of themselves and the happiest version of themselves?
I really just want them to be the happiest version of themselves, right? At the end of the day, like I love my children more than life. They're the two most important things in my life, not excluding my wife, add her as number 3. But, I think with them, I want them to be passionate about something. If they can have something that they're passionate about, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's the guitar or baseball or lifting weights or paddleboarding, whatever it is. Like if they can have that one thing that they're passionate about that makes them happy, that's going to make me happy. I want them to be kind to people and I want them to work hard. So that's with my children. Those are my focuses on them. Do they have fast food once in a while? Yes. Do they eat ice cream? Yes. Do they skip meals at times? Yes. Do they do all the people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you let your kid. What are you talking about? Like kids are kids. They're resilient. And wow. I try and lead by how do you get your kids to eat well? I'm like, how do I get them? How do you eat? Well, I could be eating better. Well, get your shit together. Right? Get your shit together. Seriously, get your shit together, lead by example, and then maybe your kids will follow.
Imitate what you're.
Yeah. When I cook burgers, we're using grass-fed meat, right? Like there's certain things that we use that we try and give healthier options. I don't want them to have a bad relationship with food. I don't want them to hate me either. So I think becoming a father, you learn more about compromise and you learn to love something more than yourself, right? You've literally like I would take a bullet for my children. Like that's what they've done for me. Where I think early on there's this level of selfishness, maybe being a little bit more self-centered and putting yourself first all the time. Now you're suddenly putting other people before you. And I think that's an amazing, I think that's an amazing feeling.
It's almost like it gives you a reason to be fit. Whereas before you kind of did it for vain reasons. And then as you do it with kids, you're like, this is it. This is my purpose, is to raise healthy, happy people.
Yeah, you want to do that, right? But again, you got to lead by example. If you're that parent that's asking what to do with their kids and you don't have it together, like clean your side of the street, like start getting your stuff together, start leading by example, allow them to come and watch you. Well, where's dad going? Dad's going to work out. Can I come? You can come, but like, if you want to stop. I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to sit there going, come on, let's go. Give me another one. Dad, I'm tired. Push through. No, I'm not going to say that. Like, this is something that you got to want to be there and you got to want to do it. I never had my father pushing me, and my dad didn't really know what the gym was. Like, right? Like me coming in and me grinding out reps and me pushing myself past a specific level is something I developed because I love to do it. It was less about what I got. What did I get in return? I got a feeling. I got a feeling out of that. And that's what brought me back. It wasn't the fact that I'm single digits in body fat. It wasn't the fact that I've been on over, a dozen covers. It had nothing to do with any of that. Training for me, it's the people who I think get really good out of this are the ones that develop this passion for it.
I love that outlook. Like, I think we're just touching the surface, and I know we're tight for time, so I'd love to have you on again. But what do you want people to take from this? If there was like a sort of general message you wanted them to, even just to remember, or is there a key point you want to reiterate?
Yeah. You know what? Everyone's got to relax a little bit about this. I think we put such an expectation and such a stress, and this is something that should be enjoyable. And stop thinking about what the best thing is to do. If you go in there and your head's not in it and you got yourself moving for 15, 20 minutes and that was it, don't look at it as, oh, I didn't do the full thing today. Or, oh, I did less. You did something at a time where you were probably in the past, you might have not done anything. And if you could start affiliating that good feeling, that level of success, it becomes very easy. But it's amazing. I'll end on this. I look at successful business people who have become, I've worked with some billionaires, right? And you look at how they operated that aspect of their life when it came down to business, and you look at how they operated the aspect of life, it came to their health, and there were two completely different things. They didn't do any, where they're, in my eyes, like take the same approach, you're going to be pretty damn good at it, right? Like if you went in and treated your health like you treated your business, like what'd you do? You surround yourself with a team. You brought people in that were really smart, that were able to execute specific things in that business that maybe you didn't have the time to do or you couldn't do. That's like hiring a coach or a nutritionist, right? Making, well, it's expensive. Well, okay, then go out and spend $400 a week on dinners, or you could put that money towards a coach, and you can at least set those you could set those guidelines early on. That's why I started my challenges, because I wanted to create a scalable way to be able to work with people one-on-one, to be able to answer their questions. Come into a group, but I will answer your question every single day, and I do. I don't care if it's 200 people asking them. I will answer your questions every single day, and that allows people who maybe aren't able to go find a coach, or that want to pay that amount of money, and for a heavily discounted price, they still get access to me. And that's how we've been able to make such change in the community. So listen, I appreciate you having me on, and maybe we'll do this again in the future.
And how can people find you?
Just go Instagram, it's Don Saladino, or my website is donsaladino.com. And if you got any questions, shoot me a DM.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.